last night. And one of the names that came up now is Trey Hendrickson, about what the Ravens' potential future could be with them, just hypothetically. Ian, 2 minutes ago, you tweeted it. You guys are both all over it. Ian and then Tom, I want to hear the latest breaking news. Go ahead.
It is not hypothetical. It is real. The Baltimore Ravens have agreed to terms with Trey Hendrickson on a 4-year, $112 million deal. This is something that Hendrickson has been holding out for, this kind of money on a multi-year deal, the kind of security that he's wanted, the kind that a top edge can make. And he now lands with the Baltimore Ravens. Perhaps you've heard the Ravens had an agreement with Max Crosby on a trade to bring in one of the top edge rushers in the NFL while also giving up 2 first-round picks. That trade is now off. The Baltimore Ravens worked incredibly quickly to get in the mix, Tom, for Trey Hendrickson. Crosby out, Hendrickson in. They solidify the edge with a huge payday, and Hendrickson himself lands in an absolutely perfect spot.
So let's make the natural connections here of how all the dots fit together. The Ravens told the Raiders this was a medical decision to call off the Max Crosby trade based upon his knee. Baltimore has not commented publicly on that decision. I would certainly anticipate if and when they do, they will pin it strictly as a medical decision. However, signing Trey Hendrickson to a 4-year, $112 million deal 13 hours after the trade was called off will do very little to quiet some of the questions within the league about what the other circumstances were that led to the Crosby deal falling through. So for Trey Hendrickson, this is a windfall. As Ian said, this was the type of deal that he was hoping to get. They now have Max Crosby's contract back on the books. They may have to adjust some things, delay some things, change the timeline of when they are doing some of the many hundreds of millions of dollars they committed in new contracts to make sure they are cap compliant, because the new league year begins at 4 p.m. Eastern time today. They need to have the cap in order by tomorrow. And as for Max Crosby, he is expected, as Ian reported last hour, to be back in the building this morning. I believe he is right now actually working out, rehabbing, getting his knee right. It remains unclear if he is going to play for the Raiders again, but he is a Raider. Trey Hendrickson is a Raven. Up is down. Cold is hot. The sun is dark, Kyle. The entire NFL has been turned on its head, and we are just getting started with all the fallout from this with Max Crosby.
We have a solar eclipse. First of all, thrilled for Trey Hendrickson. I did not think this thing was going to have a happy ending. After all he's been through, I just can't imagine it ended like this. Not only does he get this huge deal, he will now play against the team that didn't give him the huge deal at least twice a year. Let's get into this, though, because we talked about it last hour. I want to hear Tom and I want to hear Ian. Just riddle me this. The Baltimore Ravens are going to bring in Max Crosby. They're thrilled. We do the Photoshops. They got their pass rusher of the future. Couple days go by, during which time they lose their center, they lose other players. Trey Hendrickson is sitting there, and no one seems to be grabbing him. In the meantime, you say, wow, Max Crosby, it's very expensive in terms of draft picks. What if we could somehow get out of this deal and then go to Hendrickson, which you mentioned, Tom, they showed no chill or subtlety doing in about 13 hours, and we already have the news. There's a lot of fans out there saying skullduggery, weak sauce, all these things, that they work the system and were disingenuous. Those are loaded words. I want a response from the Ravens. In the meantime, both of you guys followed this stuff. What's your reaction?
Kyle, the fans are important. We love the fans. I would tell you the same things, and as you see, both me and Ian both looking over at our iPads as texts are flooding in. I am getting texts from GMs right now with many, many questions about the circumstances of what took place over the last several days since the Ravens acquired a player temporarily, unofficially, on Friday night, who the entire league knew was coming off of a significant meniscus repair surgery and was not going to be fully healthy until roughly June. It's a 4 to 6 month recovery. His agents were transparent with teams that he was not going to be cleared until right around the start of training camp, but full expectation that Max Crosby would be on track to play in 2026. One of his agents, CJ LeBoy, took to social media last night to say, if anything, Dr. Neil Elatrash, who performed the surgery, says that Crosby is ahead of schedule. What happens in these trades is the teams, because no trades can be official until after 4 p.m. Eastern time today, enter into a pre-trade agreement in which the new team has the ability to put the player that they are set to acquire through a physical exam. They flew in Max Crosby. He was in Baltimore. He was in the building. He was meeting with coaches. This was the start of the Max Crosby era in Baltimore yesterday. But part of that was their doctors, and the Ravens also consulted other doctors about his knee, taking an examination and figuring out how the knee was healing and what their long-term prognosis was. There are 32 teams, 32 doctors, 32 degrees of risk tolerance. What we know is, for one reason or another, and the Ravens told the Raiders it was because of medical, they decided not to move forward with the trade for Max Crosby. The fallout, again, regardless of what you believe happened, and there are many questions within the league and outside the league about exactly what happened. The result is undisputed, and it is this. The Ravens have landed a Pro Bowl caliber pass rusher. It is Trey Hendrickson.
For free agents, if you believe your value, and Hendrickson for sure believed his value, wanted close to $30 million, ends up getting $28.5 million on a 4-year deal. He believed in his value, and he waited. And there were several teams interested. The Indianapolis Colts, who have Lou Anarumo, his old defensive coordinator. They were interested. The Bucs, where he has an offseason home. They were interested. The Bills had some interest as well. The Commanders, they ended up signing Kayvon Chase onto a 1-year, $12 million deal, also that I just tweeted. And the Ravens kind of hung around, and then the Crosby deal fell apart due to his medical, and very quickly moved on Trey Hendrickson. So really, here is the landscape of what we have. We have the Ravens with Hendrickson on a 4-year, $112 million deal. You have the Cowboys, who are the other team, having traded for Rashawn Gary, set with the players they have and not expected to pursue Crosby. And then you have the Las Vegas Raiders, who have spent $281 million plus in free agency, loading up on the roster to make it a lot better. And it certainly feels like the Raiders have just now acquired Max Crosby for themselves. That is where it all stands.
Well, where I stand is